Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The first time I heard my wife call me dead weight, I was elbow deep in the guts of my Jeep's transmission, and she didn't know I was listening. It was past midnight on a Tuesday. The garage door was cracked open maybe 6 inches, enough to let out the heat, but not enough for Erica to notice. I could hear every word of her phone conversation. She was in the kitchen, pacing in those ridiculous heels she wore even at home now, the ones that clicked like a countdown timer on our tile floor. "I'm finally free of that dead weight," she said, her voice bright with something I hadn't heard in years. Happiness, maybe, or relief. I froze, my socket wrench suspended in midair. "Drew, I'm serious. Separate vacations are just the beginning. I'm going to Cancun. He can rot in whatever dive bar he picks. And when I get back, we'll see how separate we can really get." Drew! Of course it was Drew. Drew Patterson, my old high school rival, the guy who'd shoved me into lockers and called me trailer trash until I finally grew 6 inches and 40 pounds of muscle senior year. The same Drew who'd somehow slithered into Erica's tech company 3 years ago as a senior consultant and had been her work husband ever since. I set down the wrench very carefully, very quietly. "He won't even notice," Erica continued, laughing. "He's too busy playing blue-collar hero with his little handyman business. God, Megan was right. I should have left him years ago." Megan, her best friend, the salon owner, the woman who'd been in our wedding party, and who I'd helped move twice. I wiped my hands on my jeans and stood up slowly, my knees cracking. 38 years old, and my body was already keeping score of every house I'd renovated, every roof I'd patched, every favor I'd done for people who apparently thought I was dead weight. The kitchen went quiet. I heard the fridge open, the clink of a wine bottle against glass. I looked around my garage, my sanctuary. Tools organized on pegboards I'd installed myself. Workbench I'd built from reclaimed barnwood. The Jeep I'd been restoring for 2 years. The project Erica called that ugly money pit. Something cold and sharp settled in my chest, right behind my sternum. Not anger yet, something clearer than anger. Calculation. Calculation. Chapter 1. The announcement. Erica made her announcement 3 days later over breakfast, which was unusual because we hadn't eaten breakfast together in months. She was dressed for work in one of those severe black suits that made her look like a corporate executioner. Her blonde hair pulled back so tight, it gave me a headache just looking at it. "Nick," she said, not looking up from her phone. "I'm taking a vacation, Chammy." I sipped my coffee. "Okay. Alone." "Okay." That made her look up. She'd been expecting a fight, I could tell. Her jaw was already set, her eyes hard and ready. "I'm going to Cancun with the girls from work," she said. "You should take a vacation too, separately." "Separately," I repeated. "Yes. I think it would be good for us, some space." I nodded slowly, watching her face. She was trying not to smile, trying and failing. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Friday. I'll be gone for 10 days. 10 days in Cancun. Must have cost a fortune. I've been saving." She stood up, smoothing her skirt. "You should go somewhere too. Maybe that fishing cabin you're always talking about." "Maybe I will." She paused in the doorway, and for just a second, something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or disappointment that I wasn't making this harder. "Don't let the palm trees hit you on the way out," I said. She left without another word. I sat there for a long time after her car pulled out of the driveway, listening to the house settle around me. Our daughter Liv was already at school. She was 16 now, barely spoke to me anymore, spent all her time on her phone talking to her mother about how basic and embarrassing I was. I'd built this house with my own hands. Well, rebuilt it. It had been a foreclosure disaster when we bought it 12 years ago, and I'd spent every weekend for 3 years turning it into something beautiful. Erica had made vision boards, pinned inspiration photos from magazines, talked about her dream home. Half those projects were still unfinished. She'd lost interest once the Instagram photos were taken. I pulled out my phone and opened the Find My app. Erica didn't know I had access to her iPad, the one she left lying around the house like a diary she wanted someone to read. I'd synced it to my phone 6 months ago when she started coming home later and later, when her work dinners started happening 3-4 times a week. I scrolled through her messages. There were hundreds with Drew. Photos, plans, hotel receipts. The Riverside Inn, last Thursday. The night she'd told me she was working late on a presentation. I took a screenshot of everything, backed it all up to a cloud drive she didn't know existed, and then I went to the garage and got back to work on my Jeep. I had 10 days to plan. Chapter 2. Discovery. Friday morning, Erica left for the airport in an Uber, her designer luggage stuffed with bikinis and sundresses I'd never seen before. She kissed Liv goodbye. Our daughter had driven home from her friend's house just to see her mom off, but didn't even look at me. "Have fun," I called from the porch. She waved without turning around. I gave it an hour, then went into our bedroom and started looking. Not for evidence, I already had that. I was looking for ammunition. I found it in her coat pocket. A receipt from the Riverside Inn dated 2 weeks ago. Room 347. Charged to her credit card, the one she thought I didn't know about. But the real gold mine was her laptop, the personal one she kept in her nightstand. She'd forgotten to log out of her email. There were messages going back 8 months. Not just with Drew, though there were plenty of those, and they were exactly as explicit and degrading as I'd expected. But with Megan, her supposed best friend. "You're right," Erica had written. "I've wasted too much of my life on someone who'll never be more than a handyman. Drew makes me feel alive." Megan's response: "You deserve better. You've always deserved better. Remember what I told you. Men like Nick are anchors. They drag you down to their level." I sat on the edge of our bed. My bed, I reminded myself, since I'd built the frame and the headboard, and read every message. There were hundreds. Years of complaints about me, mockery of my business, jokes about my clothes and my truck and my friends. "He still thinks we're going to grow old together," Erica had written last month. "It's almost sad." I didn't feel sad. I felt like I'd just been handed a gift. That night, I drove to the Riverside Inn. It was a boutique hotel downtown, the kind of place that charged $300 a night for rooms the size of my garage. The parking lot was half empty on a Friday night, but I knew Drew's car immediately, a new BMW 7 Series, midnight blue, with vanity plates that read Winner 1. He'd had those same plates in high school on his daddy's Mercedes. I parked 3 spaces away and waited. They came out together around 10:30. Erica in a dress I'd never seen, Drew's hand on the small of her back. They were laughing. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. Drew opened the passenger door for her, and she slid in like she belonged there. I waited until they drove away, and then I got out of my truck. The key made a beautiful sound as it scraped along the driver's side of Drew's BMW, a long, deep gouge from the front wheel well all the way to the taillight. I took my time with the letters, HOMEWRECKER. Then I pulled a sticky note from my pocket and stuck it under the windshield wiper. "Separate lives start now," I'd written. "Say hi to Erica for me." I was back in my truck and 3 blocks away when I let myself smile. Chapter 3. The Rumor Mill. Mrs. Lunt caught me coming home. She was standing on her porch in a bathrobe and curlers, which meant she'd been waiting. Mrs. Lunt was 73 years old and had lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. She knew everything about everyone, and she weaponized gossip like a sniper with a rifle. "Late night errands, Nick?" she called out. I waved. "Just driving around. Couldn't sleep." "Erica's in Cancun, isn't she? I saw her Instagram." Of course she had. "Yep, girls' trip. And you're here all alone." She shook her head, making a clicking sound with her tongue. "That doesn't seem right." I could see her phone in her hand, the screen glowing. "Good night, Mrs. Lunt," I said, and went inside. I knew what would happen next. By morning, half the neighborhood would know Erica was on vacation without me. By afternoon, they'd be speculating why. By evening, someone would mention seeing her with Drew at various restaurants and stores around town. Small towns were like that. Even small towns that pretended to be suburbs. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to wait. Erica's Instagram was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive storytelling. She posted 3 times a day from Cancun. Beach photos, cocktail photos, sunset photos. Every caption was some variation of "living my best life" or "finally free." The comments were predictable. "You go, girl. Where's Nick? Separate vacations? Everything okay?" Erica responded to that last one publicly. "Better than okay." Sometimes you need space to remember who you are. Megan commented on every single post. You deserve this, queen. I didn't comment. I didn't like or follow or engage. I just took screenshots of everything. Mo on mining. On day 3 of Erica's vacation, I changed the locks on the house. It was completely legal. The house was in my name, purchased before we got married, refinanced under my credit when hers tanked 5 years ago. I'd never bothered to add her to the deed because she'd said she didn't care about paperwork. I installed new deadbolts, front and back, and a smart lock system that I could control from my phone. Then I went through the house and packed up everything that was clearly, exclusively Erica's. Her clothes, her shoes, her toiletries, her vision boards and magazines, and the expensive blender she'd used twice. I was methodical about it, careful not to take anything that could be considered jointly owned. I rented a climate-controlled storage unit across town and moved it all there, paid for 6 months in advance. The house looked bigger without her stuff, cleaner. I spent the next 2 days painting the bedroom a color I actually liked, a deep, rich blue instead of the grays she'd insisted on. And I hung the artwork I'd been keeping in the garage, paintings by local artists that she'd called tacky. I moved my tools into what had been her craft room. She hadn't touched her scrapbooking supplies in 3 years. By the time Erica was due home, the house was mine again. Niraim, Chapter 4, Lockout. Erica returned on a Sunday afternoon, sunburned and hungover, based on the photos she'd posted from the airport. Liv had spent the weekend at her friend Madison's house, which meant I was alone when Erica's Uber pulled into the driveway. I watched from the living room window as she struggled with her luggage, paid the driver, and walked up to the front door. She tried her key. Nothing. She tried again, jiggling the handle. I counted to 10, then opened the door. She looked terrible. Her skin was red and peeling, her hair was frizzy from the humidity, and she had that particular look of rage that came from being thwarted by something as simple as a lock. What the hell, Nick? Welcome home, I said. Why doesn't my key work? I changed the locks. You, what? Why? I held up my phone, showing her the screenshot of her text to Drew. I'm finally free of that dead weight. The color drained from her face, which was impressive considering how sunburned she was. You wanted separate lives, I said calmly. So here we are, living separately. This is my house. No, it's my house. Check the deed. You never wanted to be on it, remember? Too much paperwork. You can't just lock me out. I can, actually, and I did. Your stuff is in storage. Unit 247 at Secure Storage on Highway 9. I paid for 6 months. The code is your birthday. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This is insane, she said. You're insane. I'm practical. You wanted space. I'm giving you space. I'm calling my lawyer. Good idea. While you're at it, you should probably tell him about Drew, and about the Riverside Inn, and about the 8 months of messages where you and Megan planned how you were going to leave me. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. I'll have Liv's stuff ready whenever she wants to pick it up, I said. But you're not coming back inside. I closed the door. She screamed. She pounded on the door. She rang the doorbell approximately 40 times. I turned on music and went back to painting. Across the street, Mrs. Lunt stood on her porch with her phone out, recording everything. By Monday morning, the video was everywhere. Mrs. Lunt had posted it to the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Trouble in Paradise? Erica Thompson locked out of her own home." It had 300 comments by noon. People I hadn't talked to in years were suddenly very interested in my marriage. My phone rang constantly. I ignored most of the calls, but I answered when Coach Ray called. "Nick," he said in his gravelly voice, "get down to the gym. Now." Coach Ray's boxing gym was in a strip mall between a pawn shop and a tax preparation service. It smelled like sweat and old leather, and the kind of honest work that Erica had always wrinkled her nose at. Ray was in his 60s, built like a fire hydrant, with scar tissue around his eyes and hands that could still throw a punch that had put you on the canvas. He'd trained me when I was 17 and angry at the world, taught me how to channel rage into something productive. "Sit," he said, pointing at a folding chair. I sat. "You changed the locks." "Yes, good. What's next?" I blinked. "You're not going to tell me I'm being crazy? Are you being crazy? I don't think so." "Then you're not." He leaned against the ring, arms crossed. "But you need a plan, kid. Anger without a plan is just chaos, and chaos means you lose. I have a plan. Tell me. So I did. When I finished, Ray was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, showing the gap where he'd lost a tooth in 1987. Don't get mad, he said. Get even. Chapter 5. The First Move. Erica moved in with Megan temporarily, which I knew because Liv told me in a text message that was approximately 60% crying emojis. Mom says you're being cruel and she can't believe you'd do this to her and I hate you. I texted back. I love you. Your room is ready whenever you want to come home. She didn't respond.
200 messages, deleted photos, a folder called Don't Open.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
I gave her space. 16-year-olds needed time to process things, and she'd been hearing Erica's version of events for years. One dramatic lockout wasn't going to change her mind overnight. Instead, I focused on the next phase. I called my bank and removed Erica from our joint checking account. Again, completely legal. She'd never contributed to it anyway. Her paychecks went into her own account, the one she thought I didn't know about. I canceled the credit cards that were in both our names. I changed the passwords on all our streaming services and subscription boxes. Small things, annoying things, death by 1,000 cuts. And Wednesday, Erica's boss called me. His name was Richard Chen. No, wait, I'm not supposed to use that name. His name was Richard Brennan, and he was the VP of operations at Erica's tech company. Mr. Thompson, he said in a voice that suggested he'd rather be doing literally anything else. I'm calling about a complaint we received. Musho. An anonymous complaint regarding inappropriate workplace relationships. Beta, I didn't say anything. Specifically, a complaint about your wife and Drew Patterson. Beta, I see. Beta. Do you know anything about this? I know my wife and Drew have been having an affair for at least 8 months. I have documentation if you need it. Silence. Beta, Mr. Thompson, I appreciate your honesty, but I need to inform you that if you're the source of this complaint, it could be considered retaliation. I'm not the source, I said truthfully. I wasn't, Mrs. Lunt was, after I'd accidentally left some printed screenshots at her house when I'd helped her fix her garbage disposal last week. Beta Olivar and Sandy, Ilukam. I went back to painting. Beta Oliva. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. The school awards ceremony was on Thursday night. Liv was receiving an honor roll certificate, and despite everything, I wasn't going to miss it. I put on my best shirt, which was still just a button down from Target, but it was clean, and drove to the high school. Erica was already there when I arrived, sitting in the 3rd row with Drew. Bira, at my daughter's school event. They were holding hands. I felt that cold, sharp thing in my chest again, but I kept my face neutral as I walked down the aisle and sat in the row behind them. Nick, Erica hissed, turning around. What are you doing here? Supporting my daughter. You can't just... I can, actually. I'm her father. Drew turned around, and I got my first good look at him in years. He'd aged well, the bastard. Still had that prep school smugness, that way of looking at people like they were beneath him. Hey, Nick, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Long time. Drew, sorry about all this. He gestured vaguely at Erica, at the situation. Nothing personal. Everything's personal, I said. The ceremony started before he could respond. Liv walked across the stage 20 minutes later, and I clapped louder than anyone. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Erica either. She just took her certificate and walked off, her face carefully blank. After the ceremony, there was a reception in the cafeteria. Cheap cookies and punch, proud parents taking photos. Drew made a toast. He actually stood up, raised his plastic cup of punch, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Here's to moving on, to new beginnings and leaving the past behind." People stared. Erica looked mortified. I stood up. "Here's to loyalty," I said, matching his volume. "To the people who stand by you when things get hard. To the ones who don't bail the second something shinier comes along." The cafeteria went silent. "And here's to knowing the difference," I continued, looking directly at Drew, "between a man and a parasite." Someone gasped. Drew's face turned red. "You want to take this outside?" "Sure," I said. We walked out to the parking lot, and about 30 people followed us, including Erica, who was hissing at both of us to stop. Drew got in my face immediately. "You think you're tough? You're nothing. You've always been nothing, and yet she married me," I said. "Wonder what that makes you." He shoved me. I didn't shove back. I just stepped aside and let him stumble forward. Go ahead, I said. Hit me, in front of all these witnesses. I'm sure that'll go great for your career. He didn't hit me, but he did get back in his BMW, which still had a long scratch down the side, and revved the engine like he was in a Fast and Furious movie. I was standing behind his car when he threw it in reverse. I didn't move fast enough, or maybe I moved exactly as fast as I intended, and his bumper tapped my leg. I went down. It didn't hurt. I'd taken worse spills off ladders. But I stayed down, and someone screamed, and suddenly everyone was recording on their phones. He hit you, someone yelled. Drew jumped out of his car, panicking. I barely touched him. He walked behind me. I sat up slowly, wincing for effect. It's fine. I'm fine. But the damage was done. Drew daka japiwo. Gaides na pinseft. Jodar enderdok. Chapter 7. Escalation. The video of Drew hitting me with his car went viral in our little community. By Friday morning, it had been shared in 4 different Facebook groups and had made it onto a local news site's trending stories section. Erica called me, furious. You're destroying his life. He hit me with his car. You walked behind him on purpose. Prove it. She hung up. An hour later, my lawyer called. Her name was Jennifer Reeves, and she was the kind of attorney who wore power suits and had a voice that could cut glass. I'd hired her 3 days ago, right after I changed the locks. Nick, she said, your wife's attorney just contacted me. That was fast. She wants the house. She can't have it. I know, it's in your name, purchased before the marriage, never jointly owned. She has no legal claim. Good, but she's going to fight, and it's going to get ugly. It's already ugly. It's going to get uglier. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Erica's messages, about Drew's smug face, about 8 months of planning my humiliation while I fixed their cars and helped them move and played the role of the oblivious husband. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. That weekend, Erica and Drew tried to break into my house. They came at 2 in the morning on Saturday, thinking I'd be asleep. But I'd installed a security system, cameras, motion sensors, the works, and my phone buzzed the second they stepped onto the porch. I watched them on the camera feed as Drew tried to pick the lock with what looked like a credit card. He was terrible at it. I waited until they'd been fumbling at the door for 5 minutes. Then I triggered the security lights. The whole front of the house lit up like a stadium, and the alarm started blaring. Drew jumped about 3 feet in the air. Erica screamed. I opened the door, phone in hand, recording. Can I help you? I asked over the alarm. Turn that off, Erica shouted. Why are you trying to break into my house? It's my house. No, it's not. And now you're trespassing. On camera. Drew grabbed Erica's arm. Let's go. I'm calling the cops, Erica yelled. Please do, I said. I'm sure they'll be very interested in this video. They ran. I posted the video to the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, anyone else having problems with late-night visitors? Mrs. Lunt commented within minutes. I always knew something was off about those two. Chapter 8. The twist. On Monday, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Megan's husband, Paul. We need to talk. Meet me at the diner on 5th Street, noon. I almost didn't go. Paul had never liked me much. He was one of those guys who thought working with your hands meant you were too dumb for a real job. But curiosity won out. The diner was half empty when I arrived. Paul was sitting in a back booth, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Thanks for coming, he said as I slid into the seat across from him. What's this about? He pulled out his phone and turned it toward me. On the screen was a text conversation between Megan and someone named Jessica. I read it twice before I understood what I was seeing. I can't believe it's finally happening, Megan had written. Erica and Drew are perfect for each other. They deserve each other. Jessica, you're really going through with this? Megan, I've been planning it for 2 years, ever since Erica stole Brad from me in college. She thought I forgot. I never forget. I looked up at Paul. What is this? Megan set the whole thing up, he said quietly. The affair. She introduced Erica to Drew at that company mixer 3 years ago. She's been encouraging it ever since, feeding Erica's resentment about you, telling her she deserved better. Why? Revenge. Erica apparently stole Megan's boyfriend in college, and Megan's been holding a grudge ever since. She wanted to destroy Erica's marriage the way Erica destroyed her relationship. I sat back, processing this. Why are you telling me? I asked. Because I'm divorcing her, Paul said. And because you deserve to know that none of this was random. Megan orchestrated everything. He stood up, leaving his phone on the table. The password is 1234, he said. Take screenshots of whatever you need. I'm done protecting her. He walked out. I sat there for a long time, reading through years of messages between Megan and Erica, watching as Megan carefully, methodically poisoned my marriage. And then I started planning. Chapter 9. The Salon. Megan's salon was called Sheer Perfection, which should have been my first clue that she was insufferable. It was located in a trendy part of town, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs and inspirational quotes on the walls. On Friday nights, she hosted a girls' night event, wine and gossip and half-price manicures. I arrived at 7:30 with a folder full of printed screenshots and a portable speaker. The salon was packed. 20 women, including Erica, all holding wine glasses and laughing. Megan saw me first. Her smile froze. "Nick," she said too loud, "what are you doing here?" "I brought party favors," I said, holding up the folder. Erica stood up. "Get out." "In a minute." I connected my phone to the portable speaker and pressed play. Megan's voice filled the salon. "I've been planning it for 2 years, ever since Erica stole Brad from me in college." Every head turned toward Megan. I handed out the printed screenshots like I was dealing cards. Text messages between Megan and Erica, between Megan and Drew, between Megan and Jessica, detailing every step of her plan to destroy my marriage. "Your best friend," I said to Erica, "has been using you to settle a grudge from college." Erica's face went white. "And Drew," I continued, turning to address the room, "was in on it. He knew Megan was manipulating both of you. He just didn't care because he was getting what he wanted." Megan lunged at me. I stepped aside, and she crashed into a display of hair products. "You're lying," she screamed. "Am I?" I played another recording, this one of Megan and Drew laughing about how easy Erica was to manipulate. The room erupted. Women were shouting, wine glasses were being thrown, and someone, I think it was Mrs. Lunt, who'd somehow gotten herself invited, was recording everything on her phone. I walked out while they were still screaming at each other. In the parking lot, I found Drew's BMW. I'd brought spray paint. By the time I was done, Megan's puppet was written across the hood in bright red letters. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. Chapter 10. Fallout. By Monday, Megan's salon had lost half its clients. By Tuesday, Drew had been put on administrative leave from his job, pending an investigation into workplace conduct. By Wednesday, Erica had moved out of Megan's house and into a motel. By Thursday, Paul had filed for divorce, and Megan's husband had frozen all their joint accounts. I didn't do anything. I just watched it all unfold from the comfort of my newly renovated living room. Liv came home on Friday. She didn't say anything at first, just dropped her bag in the hallway and went to her room. But an hour later, she came downstairs and sat next to me on the couch. "Mom's been lying to me," she said quietly. "Yeah, about a lot of things. Yeah, I'm sorry I said I hated you. You didn't mean it. I kind of did. I know. It's okay." She leaned against my shoulder, and we sat there in silence for a long time. Chapter 11. The Block Party. The neighborhood block party was scheduled for the last Saturday in June, and there was no way I was missing it. It was an annual tradition. Every house on the street brought food. Someone set up a sound system, and we all pretended to be a community for a few hours. This year, I volunteered to help set up. I also volunteered to give a speech. Mrs. Lunt, who was in charge of the event, agreed immediately. She'd been dining out on the drama for weeks. The party started at noon. By 2 o'clock, everyone was there. Neighbors, friends, acquaintances, and yes, Erica and Drew, who showed up together like they were making some kind of statement. Megan wasn't there. She'd left town, according to the rumors. At 3 o'clock, Mrs. Lunt handed me the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I know this year has been eventful for some of us." A few people laughed nervously. "I want to talk about loyalty," I continued. "About what it means to stand by someone. To be honest with them, even when it's hard. To not betray them for something shiny and new." Erica's face was turning red. "Some people," I said, looking directly at her, "think loyalty is optional. That marriage is just a stepping stone to something better. That the people who love them are disposable." Drew stood up. "That's enough. I'm not done." I pulled out a piece of paper. "This is a DNA test. Erica, you've spent the last year telling Liv that I might not be her real father. That you weren't sure. That there was a chance she was someone else's. The crowd gasped. The test came back. I'm her father. I've always been her father. You lied to her, and you lied to me, because you wanted to hurt us. Erica tried to speak, but no sound came out. And Drew, I said, turning to him. You knew all of this. You knew Megan was using you both. You knew Erica was lying. You just didn't care. Drew started walking toward me. I didn't move. He took a swing. I ducked, and his fist connected with the dessert table behind me, sending cupcakes and cookies flying. The crowd erupted in laughter. Drew stumbled backward, clutching his hand, and tripped over a cooler. He went down hard, landing in a puddle of spilled lemonade. I handed the microphone back to Mrs. Lunt. Thanks for coming, I said. Enjoy the party. Jamder 12.